Hello and welcome to my channel On the Hook Crochet, where we talk about wearable crochet style. Let's find out what's been on the hook. This has been on my hook for a while. This is the Orange and Onyx sweater, and I named it that because I'm using a burnt orange yarn, and this is what it looks like. I bought this from Ice Yarns. It's Flamme. I'll put the link down in the description box, but unfortunately, I couldn't find this particular yarn. So I suggest that you make it from a size 4 yarn, and you could actually wrap the yarn with a tiny mohair strand, which is what this yarn is. It is an orange, burnt orange colored yarn in a size probably 3, and then it's wrapped with a tiny thread of mohair around the yarn itself. So that is what this yarn is, but you certainly don't have to use this yarn. I also, for the prototype that I'm wearing, I use Red Heart Super Saver, upside down, Red Heart Super Saver in black. Very simple. I always have that in my stash so that I can use it to make prototypes and use it for trim. So I use that for the trim on this sweater, which is around the neck, which is each stripe that I made, and also around the sleeve edge. I made several rows of trim around the bottom of the sleeves, which are short, of course, and then also around the bottom of the sweater. Now this sweater, and I'll step back and show it to you, this sweater is not a boxy fit. It has a little bit of ease. It might have maybe an inch on each side of the front and an inch on each side of the back. That's a 4-inch ease all the way around, and that gives it a loose look, but it's not boxy. It doesn't stick way out in the back. It's not huge. And if you see, when I raise my arms, this is where the sleeve starts, right here. So the sweater is this wide across, the same width as the hip. I did not decrease up here. I just made a straight rectangle for the back. And then for the front, I stopped right above the stripe, and this is all in the directions as well. But I stopped right above this last stripe, and then I began my decreasing to the shoulder. On this sweater, I have a very wide neck. I made it, the edge of my shoulder is here. So I made the neck open quite a bit here in the front, and in the back it was straight across. So I didn't lower the back at all. But I left it straight across so that I could put trim around the neck. And this trim is about maybe an inch or an inch and a quarter. There's several different kinds of stitches there, just to keep it in the V shape. Now I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to put a piece of paper behind this so you can see how the neck is shaped in a V. If you see that, it's shaped in a V. The V starts right here. This is where we do our decreasing, right up here, and then we add the trim on at the very last step of the sweater. That was the very last thing that I did, besides tying in all the ends on this particular sweater. There were so many ends. I cut the yarn at the end of each row in different colors. So I cut the yarn here for the black, and then I joined it back up here for the black. So the orange is also cut in every section. So I had a lot of ends inside to tie off, which is not terrible. But I do give you the option of doing the stripes in even numbers. This is one row of black. I wanted to do it that way because I like thin stripes. If you're going to make stripes going across this way, I think the thin stripes look better. But in my next sweater that I make from this pattern, I might make everything in even numbers. So I might make 2 rows of black, or the contrasting color, and then 6 rows of the main color. On this particular sweater, I did 5 rows of the main color, 1 row of the contrasting color. So if you make an even number of rows, you end up at the same side of the fabric always. So you can run the yarn up one side of the fabric. You see what I mean? If you're crocheting an even number of black, for example, this is the contrasting color. You start here and you crochet here. Now the way I did it, I cut the yarn here. But if you're doing an even number of rows, you want to come back this way and then drop your yarn, join the orange or the main color yarn, and continue on with that for 6 rows. So that will also end over here, the 6th row. Then you drop the main color yarn and pick up the contrasting yarn, do 2 rows across, and then continue in that manner. Now, that's not up here mostly, that's in the bottom of the sweater. Up here you have to do each section separately. It's not difficult. I show you how to do it in the pattern. It's not difficult at all. I always try to tell you when I do these rollout videos of my patterns, some of the things that you can do that are optional, and that is an optional thing you can do, even number of stripes instead of odd number of rows in certain colors. So, and I explain that in the pattern for you. But another thing I didn't do, which I might do the next time, I'm not really sure. I like the design as it is. I like the way the stripes fall on the sleeve. But I believe that I would have put a black stripe right here, which is the first row of the sleeve. And if you have ever bought my patterns, you know that I usually, not always, but usually crochet the sleeve right onto the body of the fabric. So I sew the shoulder seams first, front and back, front to the back, lay it out flat, mark my sleeve how big I want it to be right here, and then I crochet the sleeve flat onto the body, and then I sew the underarm seam and the sleeve seam all at one time. To me, it's easier to lay out your crochet flat and then sew the seam, and then at the very end I would put the trim around so you can't see where the seam stops there right at the edge of the main color. You would put the trim on last so it gives it that smooth edge there, and there's no seam right at the end of the sweater. Now, like I said, I might put a black stripe here, which is the first row of the sleeve seam. That would be black or the contrasting color, and that would give the sweater a whole different look. Now, I'm not sure if it would look better like that or not, but I chose to make it this way, where I started the sleeve with the main color right here. You see what I mean? I might have put a row of black there to connect this stripe with these stripes. It's certainly up to you. The next one that I make out of this particular pattern, and I will make it again, I will probably do that and just see how it looks. And I'll probably also do it in even stripes. That would be 2 rows of the contrasting color for the stripes, so that, you know, it just gives it a different look. I really like the way this looks though. I really liked it. That's why I chose to do the single row of contrasting color across so that it's not so bold. Now, depending on the colors that you choose, the next one I make will be a spring color. It will not be winter colors. This is probably one of my last winter sweaters. In fact, it may be the last winter sweater that I make this year. I made this out of chenille wool flame from Ice Yarns. I'm just going to tell you that I don't think that they have it in stock. They might, but in fact, I think they actually do have it in stock now that I think about it. This comes in lots and lots of colors. And let me tell you what it's made from. This yarn is 15% wool, 85% acrylic. So it doesn't have to be blocked. I didn't block this sweater. It doesn't need to be blocked. It falls just fine the way it is. I don't think it would look any different if I blocked it. Now, if it was 85% wool and 15% acrylic, I would block the sweater. I would block it. Now, I made the stripes out of the Red Heart, and that is all acrylic yarn. So it matched up just fine. There's just a tiny bit of wool in here. I don't think there'll be a problem if I decide to block it, but I won't be blocking it. And if I wash it, I don't think that'll be a problem either. I will just hand wash it in cold water and lay it to flat to dry. I think it'll be just fine. But that's how I made this particular sweater. This is the yarn I made it from, and it comes in packages. Each ball is only 70 meters long. So what I used to make this sweater, not the black part, but the orange part, was 9 balls of this. 9 balls of this, which is 70 meters a piece. I don't know how many that is. I'll figure that out and put it in my pattern. But this is what I made it from, and I bought 2 packages, and I used 1 full package of 8 plus 1 extra. That's what I used to make this part of the pattern. Now remember, I I'm using 2 colors, so if I was making it all in the same color, of course, I would need more yarn. I would need to use more of the main color yarn. So if you have a very exquisite yarn that's a solid color, you could use it for the stripe in the sweater and for the trim, and you wouldn't need nearly as much. I don't know how much I used, hardly anything from this ball. There's just a little bit out of the middle. So I didn't use very many yards at all of the Red Heart Black Super Saver. So I just wanted to bring this sweater to you. The pattern is out on my Etsy shop. You will have received an email in your inbox, and it has a special discount. If you want to pick up this pattern, you can certainly do that. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked this sweater. It was actually suggestions from my subscribers to have a V-neck sweater, short sleeves, so I did that. It's my focus to design patterns that fit you, that you can enjoy making, that are not difficult to make. So join me next time to find out what's on the hook.